This is a quick little demonstration that I do when we're about to do PF5, okay? The PF5 will be out there working away on the vehicle, and it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes to go through its cycle completely. What we want to do is take people's minds off watching the machine. So the ideal thing to do is to show them a little demonstration. You've got their attention sitting there. Let's show them what our stuff actually does and why we should add it. Otherwise, they'll just do a fluid transfer and they won't use the 106 or the 310 afterwards. So we're going to give them a reason for doing it and why they should do it. What I'm doing here is I've got a sample of fluid. It doesn't really matter. This is transmission fluid. Okay? Anybody's automatic transmission fluid. All I'm going to do is add a sample here in the test tube. Let's give it a little bit more. Right. Okay? That's a good amount to put in there. What we're going to do now is we're going to oxidize it. This is an oxidizing agent again, the same one as we used before for 208. It's concentrated sulfuric acid. The reason we use it is because we are going to go and we're going to break this down as rapidly as possible. We do not have 36,000 miles to wait. So I want to do it as quickly as possible. This will oxidize the fluid. If you come to try and use, one of the pitfalls is if you come to try and use the fluid that they give you in the shop that comes out of a transmission, it's going to have a lot of clutch material and things in there. So you can clean up the fluid with our stuff, but you'll never get it to look completely clean because of all the clutch material that's in there. What I want to do is show you how we treat the fluid itself. Okay, this is old fluid. This is new fluid, sorry. I'm going to oxidize it. 2, 3 drips of concentrated sulfuric acid. Test tube. Okay, it's a miracle. Look at that stuff. You see it running down the side of the tube, how slowly it runs. It is thickened, it is oxidized now. Okay? That's what happens to your fluid inside a transmission. Any of you know what fluid smells like? It smells just like this. You can offer that to your tranny guys. It stinks. It is just sulfur smell that comes out of there. So, in the old days, what happened before you came up with a machine like this? What happened with the fluid that was in the transmission? You drop the pan, you drain out some of the fluid, probably 40% if you're lucky. Okay, you got about 4 quarts out of about 11.9 quart system. So if you're lucky, it was 40%. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to drain, some of our fluid. Okay, there's our fluid exchange. We're going to top it back up again with some new fluid. How's that? There's a nice fluid exchange, right? Your customer will be very pleased that you did that for them. You imagine, we've still got 40%. I was pretty generous with my amount that I put in there, but we've still got all this old fluid in the bottom of this system, which is contaminating the new fluid and breaking it down straight away. It is going to break it down and put the varnishes right back in there. Okay? That's what we've got to try and get away from. If you add 310 to it, this is our automatic transmission conditioner. This little can here, okay? Automatic transmission conditioner. 1 cam will do a full system. What I'm going to do is add a drop of that from the applicator bottle. We do that. We shake it up. Wow. Can you see that clearly? How well it's come out? Look at that fluid. That is almost completely new again. Okay? That's what we're trying to show people is what happens, why we use our conditioner inside a system. Not only does it change the fluid back to looking good so the customer knows that you've actually done something, it is adding conditioners to the fluid itself. It's replacing the additive package that's been depleted over time. That depletion takes place because of heat inside the system. A transmission fluid will last a lifetime if it doesn't go above 179 degrees. Once it reaches 180 degrees, it will last about 100,000 miles. For every 18 degrees you go above 180 degrees, you halve the life of the fluid. So at 180 degrees, it lasts 100,000 miles. At 198 degrees, it will last 50,000 miles. At 216 degrees, it will last 25,000 miles. When you start thinking about it, where does that transmission fluid go to be cooled down? Into the radiator. What temperature does your radiator run at? Now, running along the road, it's fine. You're just driving down the highway, it's probably going to run at 200 degrees, somewhere around there on a bigger vehicle. Okay? But in town, it's up around 210, 212, 215 in those sort of areas. The fan cuts in at 210 or 215 on most vehicles. So you're going to be running, that's where the fluid goes to be cooled. Okay, in a transmission it runs at probably about 230 degrees. Okay, and then goes to be cooled down, then goes back and gets superheated and cooled again. And it continues in a cycle like that all the time. Okay? What we're trying to do is give you a reason why this needs to be changed. And it needs to be changed because it breaks down with time because of the heat that's generated in there. We have now replaced the additives that were depleted in that system because of the heat. Okay? See how clear that is? Well, it will soften up quite nicely, actually. It will come in and out quite nicely. It actually, see, as you can see, before it was very difficult to get that stopper to push right down in there. Now see how nice and spongy and springy it is. And that's the difference between it. What happens is when your when your transmission fluid is depleted, it will harden up the seals inside the system. When you add this to it, our conditioner, it has seal conditioners in it. It has friction modifiers in it. It has anti-foaming in it. Okay, it will replenish all these particles that are inside your system and need to be in there. By using this inside the system, you're going to strengthen that fluid that's in there. You will also negate some of the fluid that's left, some of the old fluid that's left inside the system. If it would benefit the person, the customer, to just put the additive in there, into the old fluid if they don't have time to do it. And sometimes I actually recommend that to people who've got a very, very old vehicle that they haven't looked after. As opposed to doing a transmission flush and taking all that clutch material out, the only thing that's giving it grip inside the system a lot of times is that old clutch material. So I often recommend to people they add just a can of this to see what the effects are. This will help the old fluid that's in there. It is strong enough to help that fluid inside a regular system. When you start talking about Allisons, no, it's not big enough. You need to add about a quart to an Allison. But for a regular system, this is plenty. And it will suffice. It will improve the fluid that's already inside that system and negate those acids. It will help to soften the seals up, and it will get rid of the air bubbles that form. Okay? Air bubbles cause the stop the heat from being radiated out. Okay? Because they form inside the system. This takes care of all of that part.